Blue Jackets are about to face the best team in the NHL. Can they win 3 in a row for the first time in approximately a million years? We're going to talk about that on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return. New customers place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Big game for the Blue Jackets tonight. Maybe the biggest game of the season so far, the biggest test. They've played some good teams so far. Colorado has been struggling, but they got the win against them. They got the win against Toronto. They got a win against Edmonton. Like teams that have historically made the Blue Jackets pay. They've played a close game against Minnesota twice, and they played against the defending Stanley Cup champions. This might be the most difficult game of the season so far, because Blue Jackets are on the most unsustainable and outrageous heater. The Winnipeg Jets are on maybe an even more outrageous heater right now, and this might be more sustainable than the Blue Jackets. So I want to talk about how the offense matches up, how the defense matches up, and how the goaltending matches up. But I want to start out by saying, this is a really tough game for the Blue Jackets. I think they know that going in. It's the first half of their first back-to-back as well. I don't believe they've played back-to-back games yet this season. They're coming in on a 4-game point streak, 2-game winning streak. The Jets are coming in. They've lost once this season. It was to Toronto, because of course it was. And again, they've beat some good teams out there. They've got they're 9-1 on the season so far. They are sitting at the very top of the NHL by a pretty considerable margin. If I remember, yeah, they've got a 900 point percentage over. The next best team is Dallas with a 778. Dallas is 7-2. Winnipeg is 9-1. Like, just the most outrageous start to the season for the Jets. Partially, I think, probably because they got embarrassed in the postseason last year. They've got something to prove, and they seem to be proving it. They're scoring the most goals of anyone in the NHL. Their power play is at almost 50%, which is just stupidly good. They're allowing not a lot of goals either. Like, the Blue Jackets are scoring a lot of goals this season. They're not scoring as many as the Jets are. The Jets are averaging over 4.5 goals a game. They've scored 46 goals in 10 games so far, and they've only allowed 24. Blue Jackets, by comparison, have scored 35 and allowed 25 in one fewer game. So tough game. In terms of how these two teams match up against each other, last season, I believe the Blue Jackets were swept by the Jets. I should know this, and I don't. Why would I think that this would... Why would I think that I would know this off the top of my head? I very, very do not. But I feel like the Blue Jackets lost both games. Or I found it. I had to... Don't ask me how long it took. But the Jets dismantled the Blue Jackets last season. It wasn't particularly close. They won the first game 6-1, and they won the second game 5-0, or whichever way around that was. The first game 5-0, and the second game 6-1. So they outscored them 11-1 last season. Now, last season, the Blue Jackets had a lot of trouble with their offense, and the Jets, again, were a really good team last season. They finished 4th in the entire NHL with 52 wins and 110 points. So they were a good team last season. They're a good team again this season. It looks like they are continuing where they left off at the end of last regular season. Again, the playoffs were kind of a mess for them. Connor Hellebuyck decided that he didn't want to play, I guess, and it didn't end well. But he is the best goalie in the league so far this season, and again, it's not particularly close. He's 7-1 on the season, has a .923 save percentage, which amongst goalies that have played more than 5 games is at the very top. I'm just pulling up the numbers specifically right now. Okay, it's amongst goalies that have played more than 5 games, he is 4th. Lucas Dostal is killing it in Anaheim. Jake Ottinger has been very good for Dallas. Ilya Sorokin has been great for New York. And then in comes Connor Hellebuyck with, again, a .923. He's only allowed 17 goals on 222 shots this season. So it's going to be a problem. The Blue Jackets have faced goalies before this season that are ostensibly good but are struggling at times. We got they faced off against Georgiev that was really struggling. They faced off against just a handful of goalies that are not at the best place right now. This, I think, is going to be the first goalie they face that is maybe the second goalie that they face that is legitimately a very, very good goalie. Philip Gustafsson for the Wild is currently sitting 8th in save percentage, 6th among goalies that have played more than 5 games, with a .922 save percentage, and he made the Blue Jackets look extremely silly this season. So the big thing for me, anyway, for this game is the Blue Jackets have to figure out Connor Hellebuyck. It's going to be difficult because they haven't figured it out yet, and they've been playing against him for a bunch of years, and he seems like he's potentially even better this season than he was last season. So that's going to be the big key for me, I think, is how do you figure out the goaltending? Who do you put in goal as well is going to be a big question. Do you, again, ride the hot hand with Elvis, who has had 2 exceptional games in a row? 60 of 61 shots saved, and just coming off the back of 1 shutout and 1 almost shutout. Is that your best shot? Or do you go with Tarasov, who has sat for a couple of games, didn't have a great game against Nashville, but had 2 very good games before that? It's I don't know that it's much of a dilemma. And again, I'm surprised that they went with Elvis on Wednesday night against the Islanders. I thought for sure they would go back to Tarasov and continue rotating goalies like that. I guess they want to even out the workload. Tarasov's played 5 games so far. Elvis has played 4. Elvis missed a couple of weeks in the middle there. So that's why Tarasov has kind of taken over a little bit. But the problem is the Blue Jackets have a game at home against a very good opponent, or they have an away game against a Metropolitan Division rival. If you had to pick a game to win, do you pick the home game or do you pick the rival game? It's obviously you want to win both of them, but I think they put the goalie that they want to have the best chance of beating or the best chance of winning in against the Jets. Capitals are having a really good start to the season. They're not having as good of a start as the Jets. So I think my prediction for this specifically is I think you've got to put Elvis. You don't have to put Elvis in. I would. And then you put Tarasov in against the Capitals the following night. I don't think I'd be mad if they started Tarasov against the Jets, but I think Elvis, again, you ride the hot hand. Elvis has 2 really good games in a row, which probably means he's due for a game where he just kind of forgets how to goalie a little bit. But the Blue Jackets are going to be fighting the uphill battle in terms of who has the best goalie all night. So that, to me, is going to be really, really key. This is not going to be a game that you're going to be able to win 5-4, 6-5. This feels like it's going to be a game that you're going to have to win this, 2-1 or 3-1. And we've seen that the Blue Jackets can do this, but it's not necessarily to their specific skill set. I'll talk about the offense in just a little bit here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to talk about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL or any sport you want, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just find the heaviest favorite that you can. Doesn't matter what it is, just the heaviest favorite that you can. Put $5 on it. If it wins, you get $150 that you can spend on whatever you want. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and also us, the Locked On Podcast Network. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're talking about tonight's game against the Winnipeg Jets, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit stressed about this game, because not only do the Jets have the best goaltender in the league right now, or maybe the hottest goaltender in the league right now, they are no slouches offensively either. Kyle Connor has 5 goals and 12 points in his last 5 games, which is outrageous. In terms of like on the season so far, he's sitting at 17 points, 9 goals in 10 games. Stupid, outrageous, Mark Scheifele has had like kind of a second coming. He's 13 points in 10 games. Nick Ehlers is also a point a game, and that's not even to talk about, the guys a little bit further down the lineup, Cole Perfetti, Gabe Velarde. There's a lot going on. You go over to the defenseman. Neil Pionk somehow has 12 points in 10 games. Josh Morrissey is looking excellent for them as well. They don't really have a weak point, which is worrying if you are about to face them. I talked a little bit about this kind of in the first segment, but like they are scoring more goals per game than anyone else in the league. They're allowing only 3 teams are allowing fewer goals per game than the Jets. They're allowing approximately 2.5 goals a game and scoring 4.5 goals a game. So basically, they're winning every game 4-2, give or take. That's not really how the math works. Blue Jackets, in fairness, are winning every game 4-3, essentially. Again, the math doesn't really add out there, but near enough. They're 6th in the league in goals for and 6th in goals against, which is kind of unheard of in kind of modern Blue Jackets stats. It's going to come crashing down sooner or later, but hopefully it doesn't come crashing down in this game. Blue Jackets need to work on their face-offs, which again, the Winnipeg Jets are in the top half of the league in. The penalty kill, the Blue Jackets have got a 0.5 percentage point better on the penalty kill than the Jets. However, as I previously mentioned, the Jets power play is rocking a 44.8% right now, which means basically that's basically 50%. Like, they are scoring on every other power play, which is a terrifying concept. Again, Blue Jackets penalty kill has been good. Is it good enough to kind of stop this this power play? And again, this power play is unsustainable in a like massively unsustainable. Like, there's a lot of power plays that are kind of out there and are unsustainable at the minute, but I'm just looking up what the leading power play last season, the Tampa Bay Lightning had the best power play in the league at 26.2%. And that basically meant that they were scoring on a quarter of their power plays. Like, this power play is not going to continue to roll at 45%. It's stupid. It's silly. It's not going to happen. However, it's going to be really difficult if the Blue Jackets start taking penalties and start doing a lot of crime, if the Jets power play is going to roll like this, because it just feels, I guess, clinical is the term for it. Like, they are just going for it, It's stressful. It is stressful to watch. Stressful to think about as well. I'm just pulling up. They've had 29 power play opportunities so far this season, and they've scored on 13 of them. The Blue Jackets are I always feel like they take more penalties than they do. But they are on, where's their shorthanded time times shorthanded. The Blue Jackets are... Okay, in fairness, the Blue Jackets are near the bottom of the league in penalties. They are 7th in the league in times shorthanded with 27. The only teams with fewer opportunities or fewer kills are the Senators, the Ducks, the Knights, the Jets, the Wild, and the Islanders. The Jets being on this list is also interesting because it does mean that the Blue Jackets are going to have to score at 5-on-5, which is, luckily, something that they've been pretty good at because the power play has been fine, but not great. The power play for the Blue Jackets is sitting on... Where is it? They have scored only 4 power play goals so far this season of their 35. So 31 of their goals, I think 30 of their goals, they've had a shorthanded goal as well, is... So 30 of their 35 goals are even strength, which is, again, good news if you don't take a lot of penalties or if you don't get a lot of power play opportunities as well. If the power play's not scoring, you have to be able to score elsewhere, and the Blue Jackets are doing that. However, so are the Winnipeg Jets. And it feels like every time I look at a stat and I'm like, oh, this is great news for the Blue Jackets, I look at it and I'm like, oh, this is also good for the Jets. So of their... I think they've scored 46 goals. Overall, 13 of them have come on the power play, so they're also sitting at around about 30 goals scored at even strength. So on average, 5-on-5 goals per game for the Jets, which means if the Blue Jackets manage to stay out of the box, which there's no promises for that, it does mean that they are going to have to score probably more than 3 goals at 5-on-5, which luckily they are doing okay. In that, again, they are just over 3 goals a game at 5-on-5. Again, they've scored 30, I want to say 5-on-5 goals in 9 games. So very slightly better than the Jets, but they've also taken advantage of a lot of goalies that are not having a great night. Maybe Connor Hellebuck will have an off night, but I'm not under any... I'm not sitting here thinking, oh man, this is going to be an easy game, or here is a really easy way for them to win this game by taking advantage of this one weakness that the Jets have, because they don't really have a weakness, which is, again, stressful. Their weakest point is probably the penalty kill, which if the Blue Jackets can figure out how to get their power play going, that might be an area. But again, I'm not sitting here being like, yeah, the Blue Jackets are definitely going to do things on the power play, because quite frankly, I know better than that. So I don't know how the Blue Jackets, honestly, this might be one of those games where you just have to kind of grit your teeth and deal with it that way. Because again, I'm not super confident in the Blue Jackets' ability to create enough offense to really kind of trouble Connor Hellebuck. Because again, he's been excellent for this team, and the Jets have been a wagon by basically any metric. The Jets have been excellent. So I guess the Blue Jackets just kind of have to hope that the Jets have an off night, which, it's happened. They had an off night in Toronto. I think they lost 6-4, I want to say. But here's the thing. Even if the Jets decide to put their backup goalie in, Eric Comrie, he's 2-0 and has a .915 save percentage. There isn't an easy out here for the Blue Jackets. So it's going to be really tough. And I'm going to take a quick break again, and then when we get back, I want to talk about my usual predictions, which is, who's going to score a goal and what's the final score going to be. And we'll try and figure out if I have enough faith in my heart to predict that the Blue Jackets will win this game, because I've predicted them to win every game so far this season. I don't know if I can talk myself into thinking that they're going to win this game specifically, but we'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I will tell you about Game Time, because I love going to live events, mostly sports, but Game Time has live sports. They've got music, they've got theater, they've got comedy. If you need a ticket to get in the door, you can get one at Game Time. Again, like I said, I go to a lot of sports games. Game Time is the only app that I use to buy tickets, just because I think it's better than basically everything else out there. They are great. They've got curated deals to make it easier to find the best price on great seats. They've got seat views before you buy. They've got their lowest price guarantee, which means that if you find tickets in your section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And they've got the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, let's finish up here. The Blue Jackets are facing the Jets, and I spent that entire ad read just kind of thinking quietly to myself about what do I think the final score is going to be, and do I think the Blue Jackets are going to come out on top of it? Because here's the thing. The Blue Jackets, so far, in most games this season, have matched up in terms of, like, against other teams. I've been like, well, the defense isn't as good as this team, but the goal scoring is better, or vice versa, or, the goaltending is better, but the offense is worse, and, trying to kind of game it out that way. The Jets are better at everything than the Blue Jackets, but it also feels bad to root against the Blue Jackets, because I feel like every time I've counted them out this season, they have done something that has surprised me, So again, it genuinely wouldn't shock me if they come out tomorrow night and are like, or tonight, I guess, as of tomorrow, as of the time of recording this. It wouldn't shock me if they come out and like beat the Jets like 4-0. Do I think it's likely? No. Do I think it's possible? Yes. I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Again, depending on what the Blue Jackets defense, what the Blue Jackets goaltending, looks like, which we've seen the entire spectrum of, Elvis's shutout on Wednesday against the Islanders through to like allowing 4 goals on 14 shots, which I believe Tarasov did in one of the earlier games this season. So like either of those guys could make an appearance, or you could get bad Elvis, or you could get good Tarasov. Like, I genuinely don't know what to expect with the goaltending. I'm quietly optimistic. Of the last 5 games that the Blue Jackets goalies have played, 4 of them have been good, and one of them was a game where no one played well on either team. I am talking about the overtime loss to Nashville. So I guess my prediction is I am going to predict the Blue Jackets to win, because again, like, I feel like I've kind of that's the theme that I've committed to here, and it's a Blue Jackets podcast, and I would feel bad if I didn't believe in the Blue Jackets. Do I think it's very likely? No, but I am going to predict it anyway. Let's go with a 3-2 win for the Blue Jackets. In terms of goal scoring, I feel like Cole Sillinger feels due for a goal. He's got 2 on the season so far, plus 6 assists for 8 points, which again is on pace for career highs. He scored against Edmonton, and then his only other goal was in the home opener against Florida. So he's on a 2-game point streak right now. He had a goal and 2 assists against Edmonton. He had an assist against the Islanders. I'm going to go ahead and say that Cole Sillinger is going to score either the opening goal or the game-winning goal. I've made this prediction game easier on me, because I used to pick one or the other, and now I'm being like, no, it will be one or the other. I'm not going to say which one it is. I do think that there is going to be a Cole Sillinger goal tonight against the Jets. I just have a feeling, my track record for these predictions is not great. I think I've predicted correctly twice this season out of 9 games, so we'll see if I can get to 1/3 success rate. But that's going to be it from me today. Tomorrow is Saturday, so there's going to be no episode. I'm also traveling today, so there will be no game coverage. Unfortunately, I will be on a plane, ironically, so I will land and hope that the Blue Jackets did the thing. I'll be back with you guys on Monday. We will be doing a breakdown of the Jets game and also the Capitals game, which is on Saturday. And hopefully at least one of those games is fun and good and has lots of good things to talk about. So that's all kind of coming up on Monday's episode. And thank you for listening to this episode and making it your first listen of the day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, on YouTube and on SiriusXM. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. You If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for listening. Monday, we'll be talking about tonight's game and Saturday's game. Until then, make sure you stay locked on.